It's been 5 years since China introduced the so-called national security law for Hong Kong. Over 350 pro-democracy activists and political figures have been arrested under the measure, accused of subversion and secession. Now the crackdown is filtering into everyday life. It's a reality that's finally broken the last active opposition group in Hong Kong, which enjoyed substantial autonomy from Beijing before the law was imposed.
In a small, cramped room, Hong Kong's last active pro-democracy party meets for the final time.
Today, with deep sorrow, we announce that in face of immense political pressure and after careful deliberation, particularly regarding the consequences for our members and comrades, we have made the difficult decision to disband.
The League of Social Democrats was a leading voice in the mass pro-democracy protests that swept Hong Kong in 2019. China responded to the unrest by imposing the so-called national security law. It includes harsh punishments for any considered to be engaged in subversive activities. The authorities clamped down hard under the new rules. Political opposition was stifled as pro-democracy campaigners were jailed or fled. 5 years on, that crackdown is still expanding. Shops owned by people once associated with democratic movements say they're under immense pressure, from inspections, anonymous complaints, and regulatory checks.
Over the past 5 years, I feel that the space for me is reducing. I feel that people are informing the authorities all the time. It's rather irrational and abnormal.
Hong Kong people are now scared of unknown, which we are facing a new normal, a new Hong Kong that with many regulations, many ambiguous red lines, and many self-censoring things.
With the law now firmly entrenched, the League of Social Democrats says it has no false hope that Hong Kong can be liberalised in the near future. But it bowed out with a parting message to its supporters across the city.
I'm deeply grateful that the League of Social Democrats once existed. I sincerely hope that in the future there will still be voices in society that speak out for the marginalized, unflinching, unwavering, and consistent to the end.
Chung Ching Kwong joins us from the Inter-Parliamentary Alliance on China, which unites lawmakers worldwide promoting democracy. Where does this all leave Hong Kong's pro-democracy movement?
It leaves Hong Kong democratic movement in a very dire situation because LSD is actually the last active political party that's pro-democracy. And without them, there is no active political parties left because in the past 2 years, the three major democratic parties have disbanded under pressure coming from the Hong Kong government. So there will be no political party operating in the city that actually reflects the urge or the pursuit of democracy in the city.
What sort of pressure has there been on groups like this to come to this conclusion, to have to quit at what they're doing?
So from what I've heard, before the 1st of July, which is tomorrow, LSE has been approached by numerous members from the authorities, putting pressure onto them and say, you need to disband, and the same for the other two parties that disbanded earlier in the last 2 years. They have been recently invited to have tea or coffees with the officials, and the officials call them and stay in contact with them very regularly, constantly giving them the message that you need to disband. Your existence is constituting a crime under the national security law, and if you don't disband, you and the people around you will face dire consequences. That has been the message that the government has been trying to convey to any person who is still continuing the fight in the city.
And the consequences can mean life in prison. What can be done if you want to protest?
Yes, the consequences under this law means spending the rest of your life in prison, just like many of my friends and Democratic campaigners, and even like media people like Jimmy Lai. And there is actually very limited room for protest right now in the city. So the last June 4th, the 4th of June, a lot of people try to commemorate the June 4th massacre in their own way. For example, like standing in Victoria Park where the Virgil used to hold, eating a banana, and they got surrounded by police. So you can see the police is very, very scared of anything that could signal resistance or disobedience when it comes to the authorities. So there is very limited room, but there are a lot of people who are still trying to do very small things in their daily lives, like trying to reject products from China, trying to remain free, at least in their daily lives.
So where does it go from here? Where's all this actually leading?
So this is not going into a really good direction by the look of it. But at the same time, there are a lot of geopolitical developments ongoing when it comes to the world and China and Taiwan. So it's very difficult to judge whether or not in a short space of time Hong Kong is gonna be democratic or free. And I think for the coming 5 to 10 years, we can expect very limited resistance possible on the ground. But it doesn't mean that people have forgotten the fight for freedom and democracy. Just as in China, there have been a lot of resistance happening on a daily basis that just don't get reported.
Chung Ching Kwong, thank you very much for joining us on this disappointing day for democracy in Hong Kong.
Thank you.